Are we live? Yes, I believe we are live. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I can see you guys are piling into the chat room there. So, yes, let's get this started. Thank you for joining us here. It's a very nice Tuesday morning here in Johannesburg, and we are going to be talking about enterprise content management, specifically artificial intelligence in ECM or enterprise content management, as well as cybersecurity. But the theme for today, brought to you by Faranani DocTec and ITWeb, is to unlock business potential with generative AI information management. This is really a hot topic at the moment because we are talking here about the confluence of data, artificial intelligence, business intelligence, managing information in your organization. This is one of the big things about AI at the moment. I mean, we've had AI for many years. We've had BI for many years. We've had predictive analytics, all of those things for many years. The big difference that we're seeing with current AI is that it is an interface revolution. It's becoming easier for people to connect to information, to retrieve that information, and make good decisions. We're also realizing that when you do not have those capabilities, or when they're not done properly, it can lead to bad decisions as well. There is real impact on that. That's why we are talking about ECM and AI today, as well as concerns such as security. But first, my name is James Francis. I will be your host for today, and I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. I see some of you are already jumping there into the chat channel. Please feel free to do that. The chat channel is there for you guys to pose your questions, to make comments. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what the weather is like even over there. And that's not even a facetious question. These days, the amount of rain and sunshine, it's just incredible what's happening. So please feel free to use that. That is your place to interact. If it's your first time joining us, thank you very much for taking time to do so. For the next hour, you are going to find out more about ECM as well as how AI and security is impacting it. We're going to be looking at the challenges of ECM. We are also going to be looking at, as I said, security around ECM, and we're also going to be looking at how AI is driving efficiency and streamlining information retrieval, finding information, making sure the right information is in front of people. And of course, if you've joined us before, thank you very much for joining us again. Always great to have you guys here. As a reminder, this is a live event, but we are recording this event. A recorded version will be made available to you within the next week or so. Keep an eye on your email for that. Also, if you'd like any more information on today's event, whether it be to contact the presenters, maybe get copies of the presentations, find out about that recording, please just contact the ITWeb events team. That's events@itweb.co.za. They will be able to help you out with any of that information. And just once again, with the chat, drop in your questions. We're going to have our presentations, and then we're going to have Q&A at the end. So anything you'd like to find out about content management and the role of security and AI in content management, or if you'd like to find out more about our guests today, Faranani DocTec, please just drop them in there. We'll try and cover them at the end. If we cannot get to your questions, we'll find another means to get the answers to you. And with that, let's jump into our topic today, which is, as I said, enterprise content management. And we know today information is power, but raw data is noise, and that's where information management comes in. It gives you that structured data so you can make smarter decisions and streamline your operations. And yet, we have not solved the data problem. We still have too much data, and it is just getting worse. If I just look at some statistics I found preparing for this intro, according to one survey, only 14% of executives say they have access to all the data sources they need. And if we look at some of the problems out there, especially when it comes around to including analytics, AI, or any kind of predictive capability, poor data is causing 38% of projects to take longer, going 36% of them to cost more, and 33% of these, due to poor data alone, fall short of expected results. But the problem is you've got so much data out there. There's structured, there's unstructured, there are databases, there are emails, there are documents, videos even today, audio files. We're bringing in other things, stuff spread onto cloud computing, IoT devices, online transactions, it's getting much, much bigger, much, much harder, and yet the stakes have never been higher because, as I said, today, AI is how we interact with this stuff. And you need to both understand what data you have, and you need to be able to access it. That's what brings us to our guest today. Faranani DocTec, their name is a vendor word for working together or teamwork. And in this case, they are there about doing content management and expanding into security around that content management. And I'm very keen to hear what these guys have to say. We have two great guests today. So I'm going to go straight and first just introduce our two guests before we hand over to our first presenter. First, I'd like to welcome, he is the OpenText EIM Solutions Consultant for Faranani DocTec, Kiran Parbhoo. Kiran, how are you doing today? Kiran, you just need to turn on your camera. Sorry, we can't do it on that side. Well, while we wait for Kiran, I'd like to also, he's going to talk to us a bit later. He's a business development executive for cybersecurity at Faranani DocTec, Ben from Niekerk. Ben, how are you today? There we go. We've got Kiran, Ben. How are you guys doing today?
Morning, James. Hearty welcome to everybody in the audience. Looking forward to have the discussion with everyone today. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Kiran, how are you today? You're still on mute, Kiran. At the top of the screen, you'll see there's the little microphone. Yep. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Perfect. I can hear you now. How are you doing today?
Awesome. Excellent. It's a clear sunny day. No rain. So what more can we ask for?
That's very true. Hopefully my grass can grow a little bit now, but fantastic. Kiran, I am going to hand over to you. You're going to kickstart stuff for us today, looking at enterprise content management. So thank you for your time, and over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, James. Morning, everyone. Can everyone see my screen?
Nope, just still waiting for you to share. Then I'll tell you once it's active.
Give me a... Perfect.
There we go. Perfect. I can see it. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Yes. I think the sessions today, we're going to be talking a bit about ECM solutions or enterprise content management systems. We're also going to be introducing Content Aviator. But I think before we get there, a little bit about Faranani. Okay, so on my agenda, you'll see I've got the introduction to Faranani DocTec, a little bit about enterprise content management, OpenText Content Aviator. I have got a video demonstration that I will talk you through, and then I will hand over to Ben to talk on these cybersecurity aspects. Okay, so Faranani was founded in 2010, and it's part of the Faranani Group. We are level 1 BBB company. We are an OpenText reseller, platinum partner, and we are 2-time OpenText Africa Partner of the Year winners. We have held the title for 2 consecutive years, namely 2024, 2023. Okay, we currently employ more than 90 tertiary qualified and OpenText certified IT professionals, and we do a successful implementation of intern and staff learner programs through the MIXITA. Okay, so our core expertise are in the OpenText enterprise content management space. We do records management, information archiving, document imaging and capturing, business process management, document output management in electronic forms. We do integrations into e-signature solutions to our ECM and EIM solutions, and then also we handle cybersecurity on the ECM platform. Okay, and just for some reference, these are some of our client base. just to give you insight into the areas that we work in, and some of and give you comfort in some of the areas that we work in. Okay, so I think for those of you that are new to ECM or Enterprise Content Management, what is Enterprise Content Management? So I've got a definition on the screen that says it's a comprehensive software solution that's designed to help organizations manage, store, utilize their business content efficiently. So essentially what it is it's a collaboration or a set of tools that caters for document management, records management, your workflow, automation, and collaboration within an organization. Some of the key benefits that we're looking at is document management and organization. So structuring your data so that, one, it meets your business requirements and easy to access the content when required. Okay. Together with that, what we then do is we overlay that information with records management. So specifically when talking to government sector, how do we bring records management in to manage your retention and disposition of those records? Okay. I think equally important, workflow automation. How do we streamline your businesses? Simple business routing processes. How do we bring that into your organization, and how do we effect change within your organization without actually losing context to those business processes? I think also critically important is integration into third-party systems. So with the OpenText ECM stack, we have connectors that actually integrate into your Office 365, your SAP, SuccessFactors, Salesforce, the Oracle e-business suite, just to name a few. This becomes critical because essentially what we're doing is storing data from an Microsoft 365 aspect. We're looking at integrations into things like SharePoint, integrations into your Office 365, and integration into your Microsoft Teams. Now, Teams is actually a very crucial one because a lot of business decisions actually get done over team sessions, and we want to harvest that information and retain that information within the organization. So through that integration, we can actually save that meeting, and that is then available to the business when required. Sorry. I think more importantly, from our architecture perspective in our ECM stack of products, is the flexible deployment. So we have the capability of deploying it on cloud, on-premise, or even providing you with a hybrid solution. Okay, so some of the benefits that we get out of ECM when we deploy it into an organization is, one, it's a time saver. So with the integration into your Office suite, we can actually then access that content that we need straight from our application, or save it directly into the ECM solution. Okay. Added to that, what we then can do is apply security to the content. So that way we ensure that only the person that requires access to that document will have access to the document. I think, and from that perspective also, you start enforcing compliance within your organization. So from a legal perspective, where government is concerned, and to an extent the private sector as well, when we start looking at records management, how do we ensure that the correct information is disposed of when it needs to be disposed? And how long do we keep that information within the organization? So those are critical factors when we design our ECM solutions. I think most importantly is the huge cost saver to an organization. So in the old days, we used to have the paper-based documents, and that was stored in files in cabinets, either all over the organization or stored in registries. And sometimes to get that information or retrieve that information can be a very cumbersome exercise. Having everything stored on a centralized ECM repository makes it easy to navigate. And once you've got the required access rights, you can go to the information in the shortest possible time. As I alluded to earlier, collaboration. I think collaboration is one of the key drivers around ECM. So being able to access the document when you need it, being able to interact with people on compiling those documents. So one, from a storage perspective, the documents become available to the organization, but at the same time, with our integrations into the Office 365 environment, we can collaborate on the documents in real time together, and all of that information is actually stored in the ECM solution. Okay, and that way we always ensure that the latest version of that document is always available. Okay, so these are some statistics that was released during the course of last year by Gartner and McKinsey. And what it's actually saying is that 47% of people actually, 47% of people within organizations struggle to find information for them to effectively do their jobs. Another scary fact is that employees spend up to 20% of their day just looking for information. And even scarier is that employees work on up to 11 applications to access the content that they require. Now, yes, the old days of paper-based systems, that was a scary enough exercise because you had to get the right requisitions in triplicate and then get the required approvals, and before you could get a document out of registry. And if that wasn't painful enough, it was then requesting documents that might be sitting in external registries and so forth. And then the third issue is if you could find those documents. So that was the old manual days. Okay, with the advent of ECM solutions, everything is now stored electronically in a central repository. Now, the problem with this is over time, and information has grown so much. It's scary the rate at which information grows on an annual basis. Now, it can be really cumbersome to actually try and find information. And there can be several factors that can lead to that. One, your organization has grown so big that you haven't maintained the information from a records management perspective. Two, the information is misfiled on the system, or it's classified incorrectly. So those are typical elements that would lead to those scenarios. In terms of users having to work up to 11 different applications to get the information, I think in recent years, and especially on the OpenText stack, this is where we've seen a boom, in that we now have the connectors to link directly into your applications. To give you an example, looking at SAP, a user can now log into SAP, and through the one screen where they're actually looking at the transactional data, they then have a link where they can actually open and retrieve all the unstructured data that's sitting in the ECM system, but doing all of this from one interface from within SAP. Okay, so those are critical factors that we need to be cognizant of. Okay, so OpenText looked at the scenarios a few years ago, and they started asking the question, how can we improve and retrieve that information with minimal effect, okay? And it was around this time that we saw the introduction of your AI tool set. So OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Gemini. And then OpenText were a decision point, if I can put it that way, where they had to consider looking at changing the way that we do searching within the ECM solutions, or embracing new technologies that have started to emerge. And they've actually went with the latter, where they started taking these AI engines and then actually embedding it within the ECM platform. And this is something that we're going to talk through in the next few slides. So the Content Aviator now becomes a middleware that talks to your ECM, but also on the top end talks to your AI engines. And this is where we actually start extracting the data. Okay, so a definition that OpenText like to use is that Content Aviator is an AI-powered assistant designed to help users interact and manage enterprise content more efficiently. In a nutshell, what that does is it simplifies the way you search for data, you summarize data, extract data, you translate data. So in scenarios where you're working as in multinational companies spanning several continents, and information is captured in different languages, from German to English to French, how do you find the information that you're looking for? And the demo that I have after this talks exactly through that. But essentially, I think what, if you think back to the previous slide with the statistics that I showed, 47% of information cannot be found, or 20% of the employees' days spent looking for documents. You now have a mechanism where you can extract the information that you require with minimal effort. So rather than actually searching for the document, going through searches, downloading the document, reading through the documents to see if you can find that information, the question is, why can't we just ask the system to find that information for us? Okay, so essentially what you're doing is you're reducing all of that manual effort, and you're actually freeing up your employees to focus on all the other work and reduce the effort that's required from a search perspective. Okay, so critical areas that Content Aviator brings. So one, you're looking at conversational search, where users can actually ask questions using natural language. Okay, and when we retrieve that information, we want to summarize that information. We don't want to read through that document. I mean, that document could be 1,000 pages, it could be 100 pages. All of that is time consuming. We need a simple method to extract that information and ensure the information we require is at our fingertips. Okay, again, coming back to my previous examples where we work over multiple continents and the documents are in different languages, we need the ability to translate that document on the fly, extract the required information, generate responses, and then translate that back into the original language. Okay, so these are key elements. And what you're seeing now is that over and above what the standard enterprise content management brought you from a search capabilities, we're now adding several levels above that. Okay, I think critical to this whole implementation is that when we do these searches and the text extractions, we need to ensure that the entire process is secure and fully integrated. Okay, and also we need to ensure that all of that information remains protected. Okay, so some of the huge benefits, time. Okay, going back to 2 slides back where I presented the statistics. Through this process, you now find that the user has more productive time to do other work. Okay, it gives them the ability to focus on matters that are more important to the organization, and then also start enhancing collaboration within the workspace. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we want to improve efficiencies, making the employees work lighter, and rather than focusing on search, focus on other more important work. Okay, so I'm going to take you through this video. And actually, I'm going to talk you through it. And in this case, the scenario that I've got here is actually of an HR. It's an HR position that's been advertised, and a whole lot of CVs was retrieved by the organization, and all of those CVs were actually filed in a single workspace. So this whole exercise actually talks through how do we go through the content to find the one applicant that meets all of the job requirements, or the best applicant that meets the job requirements. Okay, so just bear with me. There might be a second or two delay. Okay, so as a new HR person coming in and being given all of this data, the first thing that the HR manager will want to do is get oversight into what is this job all about. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to actually ask the system to give them a summary of the job description. Okay, so now that I've got a summary and I've understood what this job description is all about, I can now ask the system to give me a list of all the candidates that have actually applied for this job. Okay, so now that I've got this information, I can ask the system to tell me who are the top 3 candidates for this job. Okay, and once I've retrieved all of this information, I can then go and ask the system to give me a comparative analysis of the candidates based on their skills and their certificates, or their certifications rather. Okay, so once I've got all of this information, right, I can now ask the system who has the best certificate or who has the best references. And once I've got that information, I can then ask the system to provide me a link to that document, or alternatively tell me where the document is so that I can go and retrieve it myself. Okay, so once I've got the reference, I can go to the document and I can open the document, and I can also then start analyzing the document using Content AI. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to see when you open the document is that this document that we received is actually in German. Okay, so using the natural language, okay, we can start asking the system questions on the document, starting with generating a summary of the document. And as you see there, the summary is generated in the language that we've actually asked the system. Okay. In this instance, also what it will do then, you can actually query this document to the nth degree. Simple thing like, is this a good reference? What it will actually do in the back end is use the AI algorithms to analyze those documents against other reference letters as well. Okay, so we've extracted the information of this applicant, and we like what we see. What we now want to do is invite that applicant in for an interview. Okay, so we can actually ask the system to start to help us generate an email asking him to come in for an interview, and the system can do two things here. So one, it will help us generate the document. Because in this case, France's application was in German, all his documentation was in German, we can now ask the system to translate that email that he generated for us into German. And once we get that response, we can literally copy that information and then paste it in our email and send that off to France. Okay, and that's pretty much the demo. So, I mean, this is just one case in point that I've highlighted, but essentially this can be applied to any environment, from an insurance scenario to a business type scenario to an HR scenario. The system is flexible, and it will adapt based on the questions that's being asked. Okay, just want to get to the next slide. So just to give you a high level overview in terms of how does all of this work. Okay, so in the back end, we're looking at the system doing a text extraction, okay, and taking that information and passing it in into a vector database that's sitting in the back end. From a user perspective, a user then poses a question through the Aviator user interface, and that question is then broken down, and then a couple of things are done with it. One is that information is then used to query the vector database. If a match is found, it is then sent to the AI engine, to the large language models, where it's then translated back into a response. But before that response is presented back to the initiator, there's a permission check that's done. So you as the user will only see content or see responses to contents that you have access to see on the system. Okay, so that ensures that any sensitive information remains private. Okay, so key points that we need to touch on. So the vector database is located in your private cloud or private cloud tenants. Your business data is never used to train large language models, and the responses are exclusively generated from documents that users possess the requisite permissions. So, like I said earlier, you will not get information out of documents that you do not have access to see. Okay. Okay, and I think this is an important question. So how does OpenText Content Aviator handle version updates? So from a system perspective, the vector database only holds index information on the current version of your document. if that document is updated, the vector database actually drops that index information and then re-indexes the document so that it always has the most current information available. Okay, so earlier on in my video, I actually showed you the translation from English to German and German back to English. Okay. So the screen that you're looking at now, this is all the languages that are currently supported, okay? Some good news for South Africans. We have 4 languages over and above English that's also supported. So Afrikaans, Sotho, Xhosa, Zulu is also supported in the system in its current form. Okay, I think a high-level roadmap. So Content Aviator has been available since the first quarter in 2024, and that's been available on the OpenText ECM cloud platforms. Okay, as of the fourth quarter of 2024, Content Aviator has been available on to the on-prem versions of the ECM tools, but also remember that your AI engine actually sits in the cloud. So in this instance, it's actually a hybrid model that's being used, okay? All the while ensuring that the content, your content is kept secure. Okay, so the future where we like to see Content Aviator going. So ultimately what we would like to see is audio files, video files, summarization, where the AI actually goes through the media files and actually extracts key information. So it generates transcripts, and out of that transcripts, it generates the key information, which then makes it accessible from a search perspective. Also, we start some of the key elements that we're looking at is metadata translation that may exist on the data. So currently, the ECM platforms from OpenText support multiple languages, and those languages can be in multiple, and that metadata attributes can be stored in multiple languages. So ultimately, we would like to see all of that embedded in Content Aviator as well. Okay, and then also we're looking at chat boxes as well, where we want to start interrogating all of those transcripts. Okay, so in summary, so Content Aviator eliminates the process of manually sifting through large volumes of information. It reduces the human-intensive efforts to understand the content. It boosts user productivity and efficiencies, and promotes the reuse of existing knowledge. But more importantly, it ensures that your data is kept secure. Okay, I think with that, I think I'm going to hand over to James. I have a poll that we need to run, and yeah, if we can get your response to those polls, James.
Perfect. Thank you, Kiran. Yeah, we got a couple of polls here. The first one, if you go look up there, your poll icon there has lit up. And the first question we're asking is, which AI-powered ECM feature do you find most valuable? Automated document classification, intelligent search and retrieval, AI-driven compliance and monitoring, or automated metadata tagging? Kiran, while we're waiting for them to vote, in your experience, what are customers looking for in AI with ECM?
I think the biggest challenge, and as I've highlighted through my slides, is I think search, being able to search for content in the shortest possible time. So I'm not only talking about OpenText solutions. I think it's a general a problem across all systems out there where people battle to find content. Yeah, I think that would be one of the most crucial areas.
I think you're correct there. So we've got a few more polls to go. So I'm going to stop that poll there. And you are correct. If we look at the results, 7% said automated document classification, 53% intelligent search and retrieval, AI-driven compliance and monitoring is 30%, and automated metadata tagging is 7%. Thank you guys for voting on that poll. Let's jump into the second poll here. And we are asking now, Do you think AI and ECM will reduce manual workloads significantly? Yes, it will somewhat, but you need oversight or no manual intervention is required. Jump in there quickly while I pop these results into the chat for us there so we can see the first one and highlight it for you guys. And then looking at the poll, okay, we're seeing very, very much in favor of automating processes. And then some human oversight is just about a third of that, or half of that, sorry. And then very little saying no, manual intervention will be required. Kiran, I'll chat to you on the next poll, but let's pause this one for now. I think we've got a good spread there. So overall, do you think AI and ECM will reduce manual workload significantly? Yes. Overwhelmingly, 63% of you said yes, it'll automate most processes. 30% say somewhat, but you need some human oversight. And 6% only say no, manual intervention will still be required. Thank you for voting on that, guys. We've got 2 more for you to run in there. Let's jump into our third one here. It's another AI-based question where we are asking, how important is AI in improving your ECM search and retrieval process? Critical, important, or not necessary? Kiran, in your experience looking at that, is AI in ECM a big revolution in order to be able to get the right information out there?
Most definitely. I think, again, like I alluded in one of my slides, I think the last 5 years, specifically the last 5 years, there's been an explosion in the amount of data that we store. And that's not stopping. It's growing exponentially year by year. So I think AI is going to be playing an increasingly important role for us to get to the right information when we need it, essentially.
And definitely people agree. 79% saying it's critical, 20% saying important, not priority, and nobody's saying it's not necessary. So I think definitely everybody is on the same page there. One last poll for you guys before we go over to Ben. And what we would like to know from you on this poll is, do you trust AI to automate compliance and governance and tasks in ECM? Yes, fully, only with human oversight, or I prefer manual controls? Very controversial question, Kiran. In your experience, how do people trust AI when it comes to governance, compliance, matters like that?
I think it's a new technology. It's an evolving technology. And it's something that we need to seriously look at, because if we don't do this, we're going to get seriously left behind. And also think about it this way. It's encroaching in every part of our daily lives, from the basics that we do to the way we work. So it's definitely critical for it to be part of our day-to-day activities.
And definitely a lot of people agree we need to, but although a lot of them also say, 69% say only of human oversight, 27% say yes fully, and 2% say no, they prefer the manual control. Thank you very much for voting there, guys. We will have one more poll coming up later. And just a reminder, if you go over to the file section, you will see we started sharing an OpenText Content Aviator document there, a PDF. Please grab that for free. But about Kiran, thank you very much for your time. That was very informative. Now, though, we are going to jump over to Ben. We'll hear from Kiran again when we get to the Q&A. We're going to jump over to Ben, who's going to look more at OpenText Cybersecurity Aviator, a new dimension to this. So, Ben, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, James. And once again, welcome to everybody on this call. And as Kiran mentioned and alluded to, that AI has got significant impact in terms of different disciplines and industry, moreover, on the cybersecurity space. So what I'm wanting to cover today is giving a little bit of oversight of how AI is changing the dynamics around cybersecurity, and of course also touching more detail how we can embrace and use that in our favor to really secure our businesses against these new type of cyber attacks. So what we do see, and this is that we see our traditional means and approaches no longer are sufficient to protecting us against these attacks. So our adversaries are really using AI technologies to enhance the volume, the speed, the velocity, the sophistication of those attacks, and even they become more smartly in terms of evasion of specific approaches. So to some extent, to such an extent that 45% of all the Fortune 500 companies are considering employing a chief artificial intelligence security officer. So to just re-emphasize this point, what I want to do is just give you a little bit of a scare, and not really a scare, but just show you some drastic statistics, how AI is impacting cybersecurity. And if we look at the first statistic there, is that every 17 minutes, it's scary to think, but every 17 minutes, there's a new vulnerability introduced into the wild. And just below that as well, that we saw that the impact of data breaches, 93% of our organizations have been breached more than twice, or at least twice in the last 12 months. And of course, also a scary statistic that we're looking at is only 80% of all organizations acknowledge that they won't be able, as they stand now, to defend against this new artificial intelligence attacks. So we do have a real challenge at hand here, and we see that the landscape are really being completely disrupted and influenced by the use of AI. So having said that, there's also the financial implication in terms of breaches. We can see what is the cost of a financial, on the financial side, the cost of a breach, but also the delivery and the time for it to detect the breach. So reputational damage, financial damage, and even compliance to specific regulatory requirements like the POPIs of POPIA and GDPR and all of those type of regulations are just some of the challenges that we have to navigate in this new environment that we face. So if we look at from a product point of view and a portfolio point of view, as also mentioned in the beginning, Faranani being a platinum partner of OpenText on the content side, we are very excited to say and to announce that we also being a platinum partner on the cybersecurity space. And from a product point of view, you can see we've got an extensive portfolio spanning across quite a number of disciplines, starting right from identity and access management to the application, data, the operations, and even the forensics on top of that. But however, what we really need to do is we need to look at a systematic approach where we really start utilizing these technologies, and through an augmented solution, we really help organizations to build a roadmap to really give them the confidence and give them the guidance in terms of really safeguarding their organizations against these new type of threats and vulnerabilities. So what we're referring to is we really need to look at a layered approach. And a layered approach, always everything starts from you only know what you know. So you need to discover and identify. And in this case, it's critical to start identifying your critical assets, or more known by a lot of people and security folks, we talk about your crown jewels, is to really understand where are your critical assets and understand the vulnerabilities and really start looking at doing a layered approach. The meaning behind that is to look at prioritizing specific areas, how we can protect those type of assets. Once we've got the protection in place, of course, then we also need to leverage different type of technology that will help us to stay abreast of this AI type of attack. So we really need to use intelligence. And this is where I'm going to introduced the Cybersecurity Aviator, where we use different type of unsupervised machine learning, and through self-teaching algorithms, we start picking up different behavior of users, entities, and also trends and patterns, so that we can really detect any type of day zero threats and really take precautions and remediation action before the business are impacted. And that's where we really need to look at automation and really, on a strategic point of view, respond and then recover. So what we really need is we need to look at a specific approach and enter NIST 2.0. NIST is a blueprint and a security framework that's developed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And it's a framework for businesses to really work towards securing and getting their security posture in place, and especially safeguarding their most critical assets. So it starts off by really identifying your growing attack surface. So with the introduction of bring your own device and with our cloud first and work from home type of initiatives, our boundary these days are identity. So immediately your attack surface of your organization have expanded and increased exponentially. So we really need to firstly understand where our critical assets resides, and also how to protect them. And the assets that we're talking about is identity, it's profile, it's applications, it's data, it's devices. So really understand your vulnerabilities in terms of attack surface. Then second to that is really to protect. And protect is where we look at three key disciplines: identity and access management with zero trust, to really make sure that we understand who are accessing, who they are and what they need to access, and only grant them access to that resource at the relevant time. And that's really critical. That's zero trust. But also on the application side, applications is really enabling organizations. So the key that we need to ensure is to take out vulnerabilities in applications and really ensuring that we get the security up front instead of an afterthought, having security to test applications. If we look at black box and pen testing, all of those, we really need to shift it earlier into the development life cycle. And especially where we focus on here is also open source. There's so much vulnerabilities being added through open source libraries and other software. And then, of course, data. Data for me is really critical. And of course, with our background from Faranani, this is a normal expansion for us, but really looking at your data security and looking at your data security posture. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit on that, but really data being the lifeblood of the organization, you've got critical intellectual property and sensitive data that creates competitive advantage. So data, we really need to understand where our critical data is. We need to gain insight. How do we use the data? We need to classify the data, and then we also need to monetize the data to understand exactly what is the worth of the data and the value. And then, of course, protecting that data. And we're talking about protection in rest, in motion, but really safeguarding it through encryption or tokenization or other means. And then, of course, the key thing is continuously enforcing controls on the privacy as well, on the handling of the data. So protection is critical. And then, of course, the third phase is around detection. And detection is where we really see and where we can utilize a lot of the AI technology as well. In the case of OpenText, it's Aviator, where we use machine learning, unsupervised, where we get algorithms to learn specific behavior and to learn specific type of initiatives that's taking place in the environment to identify any type of vulnerabilities or strange behavior, or even from a device or from a user. But then to once we identify, of course, then the critical side is to respond. And respond in the sense of where we can quarantine or block or do a containment of a threat. But the key thing is around notification and also really having automation in there for remediation and taking really action. So the ability to recover strategically and respond is critical. And this is also where we can utilize the power of artificial intelligence to really bring in the efficiencies and the effectiveness of technology to really help us to embrace AI in our means to protect the organization. So this is quite a big process, and people always ask, and I get the question is, where do you start? How do you go about? Well, I normally say everything starts with discovery. You can't protect what you don't know. So really, discovery is the key. And then also, if we look at the attack vectors, for me, that is an obvious sign. And you can see from these statistics, we can see that data is really the critical element. So for me, data is really where I would start, especially after you understand your most sensitive data. You've classified it, you gain insight how you use that data. Then you really need to monetize that data, and you really also want to safeguard that data. And then, of course, once you've got that, you need to continuously govern the use of that data to ensure not just the protection, but the privacy. So from having said that, the key for me is really on the data side. And this brings me back to Aviator and Aviator for cybersecurity. And again, this is what you will see from an OpenText perspective. This is a module that sits on top of those different type of disciplines. But it uses machine learning and self-learning algorithms to really pick up, in the case of identity and access management, it will pick up the behavior of entities and users. And from there, we can then determine any abnormal behavior or different trends and patterns. If we look at data privacy, we start understanding and analyzing how data is used and where is it stored and why is it stored there and what is the value. So with Aviator from OpenText on the cybersecurity side, it's really changing the game in terms of cybersecurity. And again, this is something that we really need to embrace. So having said that, James, I want to maybe just throw out that poll, but also want to just, while we look at the poll, maybe just mention here and ask the audience and just mention to them about data security posture management. Have you done this? Do you understand what it entails? Basically, what we want to do is to really get a handle on where your sensitive data provides. And then once we've got this data to understand and get insight on how the data are utilized and monetize the value of the data, and then of course safeguard that data and to govern that. Like I say, why you want to do this? It's because the data is really having all your critical intellectual property, but your really confidential information. And it's really creating the differentiating factor for our organizations moving forward. So I really want to maybe just give you make you aware of during the data security posture management. And this is assessment that we've got out there. And I want to invite you to just make use of this promotion, where you can actually have a consultation with myself and some of the key experts to really look at understanding your data security posture. But during that exercise, also the key step is to identify any rot data. And for rot, if we just define rot, it's any redundant, absolute or trivial data. So the business case just behind that is enormous if we look in terms of savings, in terms of especially cloud-first initiatives. If you can scale down the amount of data you're moving around, not just on the storage side, but on the resources and on the amount of time and effort, and of course you ensure compliance and secure those type of data, the return on that assessment are enormous. So I want to end off, James, by just inviting everybody. There's a promotion out there. Again, you can just fill it in and contact us, and we will be glad to be in touch and talk to you regarding your data security posture. And we can do assessment for you at no charge, and at least you can get these type of visibility. From the poll that we see coming back, I can see that at least see that people have done it. The key for me, they've done it some time ago. There are organizations that never done it. I would really recommend organizations as a priority look into this. But the key of this as well is not to do this once off or once every year or twice every year. This should be a continuous process. Like I said, using NIST 2.0 is to really enforce governance and to have the continuous controls and procedures in place to make sure that you've got a handle on your posture. And of course, rolling that up into your bigger security posture for the organization. I think we just overrun with the time there, James. Any specific feedback? But I think, having said that, thanks so much, everybody, for your time. I appreciate you making effort to join us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ben. And just to reiterate what Ben mentioned there, if you go to the Office tab, you will see there a free consultation to review your security posture. So please go jump on that. Also, under the files, we've all started sharing the data security posture assessment PDF. Go grab that there. And then lastly, just to read out those poll results. When last did you do a security posture assessment? I'm going to go backwards on this one. 12 months, 6% of you did. 6 months, 13% of you. 3 months, 33%, but this is kind of shocking. 46% never. Well, I think you need to take up that offer just to see what's going on, because you honestly do not want to get hit by a attack of any kind and lose access to your data, whether it's ransomware or whether they just exfiltrate it, meaning they steal it, whether they just disable your systems. It's a very dangerous thing out there. We are out of time, but I do have 2 questions quickly for each one of you. So, Kiran, if you don't mind joining us quickly. Unfortunately, guys, we're not going to get to all of your questions today. We will try and endeavor and answer them, though, as we get back over email and all that. But for now, just 2 questions quickly. So, Kiran, looking at the AI, there is some concern about the accuracy of the AI. And I suppose what we can roll also in there is there's always a paranoia that generative AI puts private data, company data, into a public model for training. Can you just respond to that? Can people trust this generative AI to respect their data?
Yes. So for Content Aviator, the information that is actually secure is actually transmitted in a secure manner. The information is not shared, and it's not used to train any large language models. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, definitely. And then just quickly on that, is there an API? How would it connect to other applications?
So there are some APIs that have been released in the last quarter, some REST APIs. But again, we'd need to look at your use case scenario. Thank you.
And then, Ben, quickly for you, the cybersecurity service from Faranani. Is it a distinct service that stands on its own? Is it something that integrates with what what OpenText products are doing, or is it a bit of both? What kind of customer are you looking for to approach you around security issues?
James, thank you. Yes, so it's an augmented approach where we will leverage the current technology and services from a customer point of view. but we also very closely aligned with our partner OpenText to make sure that we offer the right type of service, whatever it may entail. It could be on a project-based time material, but the assessment will dictate what is the best approach. So it's augmented and really build around the solution with positive outcomes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Ben. I'm going to conclude it there. I know there are some good other questions in there, such as verification of the AI, hallucination is a concern, etc. But we'll get those answers back to you via the ITWeb crowd. But for now, I'd like to thank our two guests. You heard there last from Ben from Niekerk. He's the Business Development Executive for Cybersecurity at Faranani DocTec, as well as Kiran Parbhoo. He is the OpenText EIM Solutions Consultant, also at Faranani DocTec. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you, James, and audience.
Thank you. And to our audience, definitely thank you as well for your time here today. We really do appreciate it. This has been recorded. The recording will be made available to you guys within the next week. Also, go over to the files, grab those files, go over to the offer, try out that security assessment. Very valuable for today. And yes, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at the next one. With that,